six. And the last one's in hardback, and the rest are in paperback, and that really drives me nuts, but these are the books I read growing up, so these are the ones I have, even though they don't match. Everything is fine. What am I trying to say? Hi everybody, my name is Kelsey, and we're about to get very, very nerdy with some books that raised me. So with a little one in the house, we've been, of course, reading many, many things to her, and all picture books and young books at this point, but it made me think about the things that, you know, she'll have for her childhood, which made me think about the things that I had from my childhood. And so I thought it would be just kind of like a fun idea to sit down and talk about the books that raised me, or the books that I read growing up that were pretty pivotal in some way, like I remember very well. So most of these, actually, I'm pretty sure almost all of these are middle grade, so they're not like children's books like what she's reading right now. But either way, I just thought it would be interesting to kind of talk about the things that I grew up on. So sit down, come down memory lane with me, and let me know if any of these books were your childhood too. So the first one, I feel like, is the only one that I don't physically have. I mean, I do have it, I just don't know where it is, and that's the Twilight series. I, like many young people, was obsessed with the Twilight series. Now, I got into it later than a lot of the people around me did, because I have a very distinct memory of like one of my friends talking about the Twilight book as part of like a book club, not a book club, but like a book report that we were doing, and I hadn't read it yet and it didn't sound interesting, and it wasn't until after I read it that I had connected the dots. Or maybe it wasn't Twilight, maybe it was the third one, Eclipse. Either way, it didn't sound interesting to me, and then after I'd read it, I'd realized that I was definitely reading the book that this guy had talked about. Either way, Twilight was, I mean, I read it, I loved it like most girls in my generation, and I read the first one in 7th grade. I was part of a book club that like my science teacher put together. I have very fond memories of that, and that's where I read a lot of things that I remember from growing up, but I definitely read the Twilight book then. And it was right around the time when they were announcing the movie. Like, I remember being in the middle of this book and sitting down with people who were in this club with me, and we were looking up the cast for what had been announced. And I think there were even maybe photos of them in character, maybe not yet, but like I definitely remember having these conversations with people. So I mean, Twilight was big. I was not into vampires very much. I mean, I talk about that a lot. I'm very squeamish. I don't like blood and gore and stories. I can deal with it now, but like when I was younger, I really didn't like that. So vampires, not a thing in my book. But I didn't have a problem with this one. It was probably because of the romance. So I remember reading it and getting completely sucked into the story so fast. And I devoured this entire series. I read the spin-off novella, and like I was, like many people, I was obsessed with this series. So yeah, this one I feel like has to be on this list. Another one I remember reading, this series, it's six. And the last one's in hardback, and the rest are in paperback, and that really drives me nuts, but these are the books I read growing up, so these are the ones I have, even though they don't match. Everything is fine. My dad actually had read these. I don't know where he'd found them, but he'd read the first one, and then I read it, and like we went down an entire rabbit hole. And that is The Secret Life of the Immortal Nicholas Flamel by Michael Scott. The first one being The Alchemist. We have The Magician is the second one. The third one is The Sorceress. The fourth one is The Necromancer. The fifth one is The Warlock, and then the sixth and final one is The Enchantress. Tell me why this is the only one in hardback. Either way, these are not like, they're pretty thick. I mean, some books are thicker than others, but this one basically follows two siblings, if I remember correctly, and they just happen to be neighbors to Nicholas and his wife. And then like this big bad guy shows up one day, and they all end up going on an adventure. I believe their names are Sophie and Josh Newman. See, I knew that. And there's this guy named Dr. John Lee who is trying to get the thing that has kept Nicholas and his wife alive forever. And so it continues from there. This series is steeped in so much mythology, like so many different cultures. Like I remember a main character being from Egyptian mythology. There's Greek mythology in here. There's Egyptian mythology in here. This one says they went to Alcatraz. There is so much random stuff in this series, but I remember really enjoying it. So it was fun. It was definitely for someone who likes that very fantastical, very mythological leaning story. I loved this one. The first one, I don't know how long it's been out. The first one came out in 2007. So honestly, this would not be a bad series to reread at some point. I'm very curious because I remember there being a lot of pieces to it and really enjoying that. This is one that I just remember very fondly when it comes to the things that I remember reading of my own volition. And I read this one and I just remember going, fine, I'll read it because Dad liked it, and you know, Hyman and Han, and then being obsessed with this series. So there's quite a few years where I just like read these back to back. The Secrets of the Immortal Nicholas Flamel series. This one, I just love that one so much. Another one, which I will admit I got obsessed with because of the movie, is the Inkheart series. Can you tell this book may be a little bit loved? This cover is quite literally hanging on via tape. I think my Twilight book is also hanging on via tape. It's a trilogy by Cornelia Funk, I believe. So we have Inkheart, the second one being Ink Spell, and the third one being Ink Death. Again, why do I have two in paperback and one in hardback? I'd love to know that as well. So the Inkheart first book was made into a movie, which I think we just happened to stumble across. I don't know why we decided to pick it up. It's got Brandon Fraser in it. And I just remember it being amazing. I know this was translated from German. This was first published in the UK in 2003. So I'm assuming it was, yeah, the original text was 2003. English translation was also 2003. So it's been out for quite a while, but I watched the movie thinking, this is really cool because it's about a guy and his daughter who both have this skill that they're able to like read words, and when they read things out loud, they have the ability for something to be pulled from the text they're reading and actually show up in real life. But then on the reverse side of that, something from real life will go into the text. And so a long time ago, our main character, Maggie, her father was reading the book, and the evil ruler Capricorn escapes into the real world with a few people. And so they've kind of just been on the run, and then he catches up with them. And so it's them, and then of course, as we move through the series, we may or may not learn more about the world of Inkheart. But I was very obsessed with the series. I liked the idea of going into these stories. Another series that I think would be very interesting to reread, because I have very fond memories of this. There's definitely a couple of characters. There's a character whose name I'm totally blanking on right now. Dustfinger. It's on the second one. He's a fire eater. He's my favorite character. I love him so much. And I also like the actor who plays him in the movie, so I might be a little bit biased because that was how I was introduced to him. I'm rambling. This was a fun story. It's a fun series. It's a book about books. If you're someone who likes that feel of like going into a story or getting things out of a story, I really enjoyed this series. So this is one that I like went out of my way to find and really enjoyed. Another one is for a little bit younger me, and that is the Spiderwick Chronicles. This is by Tony Ditterlizzi and Holly Black. I just realized I showed you the fifth one. The first one is called The Field Guide. The second one, oh, these are so out of order. Hold the phone. There we go. Now we're back in order. The first one is The Field Guide. The second one, The Seeing Stone. The third one is Lucinda's Secret. The fourth one is The Ironwood Tree. And the fifth one is The Wrath of Mulgrath. And it basically follows these three siblings, two twins and a sister, and they go to this, basically move into this house, and weird things start happening. And one of the brothers discovers this like journal from someone who lived there previously, where they are talking about these mythical, magical creatures that are just here. I have very vivid memories of doing a project on the fourth one, like in elementary school. Like you got to read a book and then you did like a book report on it. I did it on the fourth one. I don't know why I have such a strong memory of that, but I do. So I really liked these, which is so funny to me because these are kind of on the maybe creepier side of fantasy. They're super short. They're really fun. Again, I'm telling you, most of the books in this video are books that I would like to reread. I'm just curious if they would still hold up. But I remember really enjoying this one. The fifth one being like extra creepy. I think we find like the super big bad guy finally. And I remember it being like underground and it being really weird. But the imagination in these stories with all these magical creatures. There's also illustrations in here which are just creepy and stunning, and there's one of the boys, but it's so fun. Like, this would be just a fun one to read in an afternoon. There's the twins. And I don't know, it's fun. It's fun. It's a fun time. I really liked it. It was made into a movie. Only the first one, I think, was made into a movie. Maybe the first couple were combined into one, but I remember that one, and it was fine. I remember thinking it was fine. Either way, these were so fun. I remember really enjoying these. So, yes, these are some more childhood books that have stuck around. And then just a few oddballs. Those are, I think, all my series, if you will. I have one that I think a lot of us probably have fond memories of, or were forced to read at some point, was Because of Winn-Dixie by Kate DiCamillo. This one was definitely a summer read for me. I remember my mom forcing me to read this, and I just did not want to. I was so bored. I had no interest in this. I mean, look how big these margins are and how big this text was. I was complaining for nothing. But once I got really into it, I remember really enjoying it. And I read this about the time that the movie had come out. I think I'd started reading it, and then we kind of looked into it and discovered there was a movie coming out. And we went to like an early screening. I don't know how we did this, but we went to an early screening because the dad, Jeff Daniels, plays the dad. And, oh no, what's her name? I can't remember. Another big name from this movie were at this event, and I remember seeing them talk about this movie and being in like the same room as them, and young me didn't understand how cool that was. Old me does. I understand. That was a very cool experience that I had, and I don't know how we got in that situation. I'll have to ask my dad because I remember him being there with me. But this one, I'm sure many people know what this one's about, but it's like about a girl who discovers a dog in a Winn-Dixie and basically takes this dog home, and this dog forces her to become friends with a lot of different people in this town, and kind of forces her to have these relationships because this dog is just very friendly. And then it's all about like connecting people and community. It won the Newbery Honor. It's a Newbery Honor book. It was very good. I feel like I don't know, but I feel like a lot of people in my generation read this book or were forced to read this book for school. And I definitely I feel like it wasn't for school. I feel like this was a summer reading program at like a library, I think. Either way, I remember reading this one, and it's definitely one that like sticks with you, I think. Another one is one, actually I'm realizing now it's by the same author. That's humorous. And that's A Tale of Despero. And this is again by Kate DiCamillo. It's illustrated specifically by Timothy Basil-Uring. This one has, yeah, these fun illustrations in it as well. It's about a mouse. And I believe it takes place in like a kingdom. I don't remember. The Tale of Despero being the story of a mouse, a princess, some soup, and a spool of thread. So I remember really enjoying this one. I think it was turned into a movie. Actually, I know it was turned into a movie. And I actually quite enjoyed the movie version of this. But this is one that I definitely read for school. This is another John Newbery Medal Award winner. For the most, sorry, it's hard to read this, for the most distinguished contribution into American literature for children. It says it right there on the cover. I feel like there's a lot of nuance to this book and a lot of deeper conversations that I probably didn't get when I was younger, but there's definitely some stuff in here that I have very distinct memories. I remember have very distinct memories of a character whose ears don't work. Not in the sense that like they're deaf. I mean, I guess they are a little bit, but like these ears have been hurt or something. I don't know, but like that's stuck with me to this day. And I feel like there's a story about that, but maybe it's been a while since I read this. I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, I remember this mouse just like being a big part of this story and being a big part of this kingdom and making some differences. And it was cute. And it clearly, you know, it clearly stayed. I think the last book I'm going to talk about in this video, there's many more that I've read throughout my childhood. I'm sure I could go find some picture books as well to add to this list, but Peanut is sleeping and I don't want to wake her up. But the last one I will end this video on is The Phantom Tollbooth, and this is by Norton Juster. This one I read in school. I think I was in 3rd grade or somewhere in there, maybe not, but either way, in 1st through 3rd grade, I was in a Montessori school, so I was in the same classroom, 1st to 3rd grade, same teachers, and after lunch and recess, we would come back and have like story time. And this is where like I was introduced to the Captain Underpants series. Like we read that at this time, but we read The Phantom Tollbooth at that time, or was read to the story of The Phantom Tollbooth. And I just remember a lot of the things about this being really humorous. It follows Milo, who a magic toll booth just mysteriously appears in his bedroom one day, and he decides to go through it to see what would happen, and everything's a little bit different. But like jumping to conclusions, he physically jumps to an island called Conclusions, and there's things like that where there's lots of play on words. He learns about time from a ticking watchdog named Talk, and even embarks on a quest to rescue Rhyme and Reason. Somewhere along the way, Milo realizes something astonishing. Life is far from dull. In fact, it's exciting beyond his wildest dreams. So it's just a cute story. It's got some illustrations. Those are the exact same illustrations. It's got some fun stuff in between. Ooh, full page ones. But I remember this. I remember laughing at a lot of this book and it just being really interesting. So I'm sure I would read it now and I would kind of have the same vibes as like Alice in Wonderland, when I would be incredibly confused. But I remember enjoying it. It's just a fun story. It's just a fun, goofy, ridiculous time. I think that's it for this video. I know there's some I'm missing. I know there's some that are important to me that I've completely forgotten about. But like if I saw them, they would spark memories. But that's kind of where I'm leaving the list today, unfinished. These are just a handful. So I hope you guys enjoyed this walk down memory lane for me. Let me know, of course, if you've read any of the books that I mentioned in today's video, but also let me know what some books that you would consider the books that you grew up with or that raised you, or, you know, whatever you want to phrase it. Let me know kind of some of your childhood favorites. I'd love to know. Maybe you'll spark some that I have forgotten and we can bond over childhood books. But otherwise, I think that's all I've got for you guys today. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. And if you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe down below if you'd like to be part of this awesome growing family. I've also got all my social media down there, as well as other fun bookish links. So check all that out, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.